Score MMA show in all the places. All right, let's get into this. UFC 273. This week, the name on the marquee has got to be Alexander the Great Volkanovski, who this past weekend in front of 14,000 strong at the VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena in Jacksonville, Florida, finished Chan Sung Jung in the main event, defending his featherweight title, 4th round TKO. Let's talk about it. Mark, let me throw it over to you first. What was your impression? What was your overall take of Volk getting it done with yet another title defense in impressive fashion?
Well, I said Volk would pick him apart. I said he'd be burying leg kicks. I said 4th round TKO. But god damn, I did not expect it to look quite like that. Who is beating this man right now at featherweight? Who?
Yeah.
It's like he ascends to another level every single time that we see him. He was so fast out there, it made Zombie look like he was moving through mud.
Oh, man.
The leg kicks were there all night. He was slipping and ripping at will, mixing in takedowns whenever he wanted. Everything was just so clean, so sharp. Zombie has never been the best defensive fighter on earth, which is obviously part of the reason he got his name, because he has to eat a lot. But my God, everything that Volk threw was landing all night. And for an orthodox fighter, he was really landing that left with power all night long, even on his jabs.
Yeah.
He rocked Zombie like 7 different times in that fight. And mercifully, we get a great stoppage from Herb because we did not need to see any more of that fight. Rogan called it a seminar from Volk, and I can't think of a more perfect summary than that.
Yeah. Omar, what was your take in the aftermath of this dominant title defense from Volkanovski?
Yeah, I mean, it was probably as close to perfect as those kind of fights can get. It was a performance that didn't push or rush the finish, but I think probably from that first round, you almost knew it was just a matter of time. Mm-hmm. And the way that Volkanovski was able to be controlled in there and patient and measured for that entire time. Even, I mean, how many guys do we see on a constant basis that hurt somebody, get them rocked, and then jump on them? Always, right? Blow themselves out, or at least spend more energy than they probably really need to in that moment to get somebody out of there, and then they eventually don't, and then they got to go back to it. Volk was very purposeful, very measured, didn't have a problem continuing to beat his ass for a little bit. I think, like all of us, though, after a certain point, it was just painful to watch, painful to have to keep going. The competitiveness at that point was slowly starting to waver over the course of the fight. And then once it's not really competitive anymore, it just doesn't seem fun. It's just like, we're not really doing anything here. So I am glad that they called it when they called it. I honestly think they could have called it sooner than they did, personally. But I was definitely impressed by Volkanovski. That was one of those fights where I don't even know now if Max could beat that kid. I don't.
Yeah, man.
Yep.
When I first saw the stoppage, I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, he just stepped in while he kind of ate a shot. But when you look at it in the totality of the fight, it was like Herb really did Chan Sung Jung a huge favor.
Yeah.
Oh, at the start of that round, I literally was thinking to myself, the very next time Zombie's legs wobble, Herb is going to stop this fight.
Yeah.
So, like, as soon as that happened, I was like, here it comes. I expected it.
And Zombie's not the one that we need to be waiting for Zombie to be, like, unconscious and half dead to be stopping a fight, because he takes way more damage than anybody really should. He's too tough for his own good, and we've seen guys like him as well. Like, it's very similar to the well, I don't want to give him that. It's not similar, but as far as the stoppage and sort of the thought process, the Chris Moutinho fight, right, where we were just seeing him take a bunch of shots. After a certain point, it wasn't competitive, right? After a very short point in that fight, but a point indeed, it wasn't competitive anymore. And why did we need like 3 extra rounds or 2 extra rounds of him getting destroyed? It just didn't make any sense. So again, I'm just glad that it did stop when it stopped, because we still had about a round and 3/4 of a round left that could have gone even worse. So
they were on different levels. And
yes,
I got to say, I've always respected Volk's game, given him his credit. I scored both max fights for Volk. I never thought he could hit the level that he's hit. Like, as much as I respected him, I didn't think this level was in there. I'm wildly impressed by how good this guy is getting. And he's better every fight. The next time we see him, he's probably going to be better than this. It's crazy to think about.
Yeah, his training is scary as shit, too. The way that man trains is... He's a beast. He's a beast for a reason.
That was my main takeaway from watching the Countdown and the Embeddeds, was every time I saw a clip of him training, I was like, I don't know what the right word is. I was like almost uncomfortable. Like, I was like, oh my God. Like, how is he doing all these things and not even like stopping for a breath? Like, it was, it's like he's an animal.
Yeah.
It's scary. It's scary because even throughout the weigh-ins, I was like, man, Volkanovski is so dialed in.
Yeah.
And what was actually extra disconcerting, have we ever seen Korean Zombie that like loose and jovial?
I don't know. I was wondering the same thing because he was really loose. I agree.
I was like, is this Zombie's version of like trying to play a mind game by like being super friendly and like happy, like right in Volk's face?
Yeah.
Like he was always like borderline, almost like giggling and like smiling a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe he was just
Zombie-
like, this is great. I made it to my second title shot. I'm playing with house money. I'm getting paid tonight. Maybe he was just really happy.
And he
I don't
could have
know.
just been very confident in his skills. He had been on a run for a bit. You know, his star power had never been brighter up until this point. I mean, he had a lot of things to be working off of when it came to his confidence. But the reality is Volkanovski is just, and this is saying something because Zombie is not a bad fighter by any stretch of the imagination. Zombie, again, like I said last week, I would probably pick over a good majority of the people in that division. Volkanovski is on a different level. He might be the only one on that level right now. That's also a reality. There might not be anybody else at the top of that mountain.
Let's also bear in mind that Zombie, I'm looking at his record right now. He hasn't been on that much of a run. I mean, in his past 7-8 fights, he's gone
just
win-loss.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he beat Dan Ige right after.
No, I
Brian Ortega.
know. I'm saying one fight to go.
So, yeah, let's talk about, we obviously know what's going to be next for Volk, or we have an idea. But first, let's talk about the harder question. Let's talk about Korean Zombie and where he might go next at featherweight. Mark, give me a name. Give me a name or two or three, actually.
I'm sorry, you said for Zombie, not for Volk?
Let's go Zombie first, because I feel like that's the harder question.
He looked really, really heartbroken, like as if he was realizing in that cage for the first time that he wasn't ever going to be champion.
Yeah.
Like that he realized, like, I'm good, but I'm not good enough, and this is not going to happen. And that's a tough pill to swallow. He teased possibly being done, and if he is, it's been a hell of a career.
Yeah.
So I don't know what he's going to decide there, but he is still only 35. Now, it's not young, but it's not must retire old either. So if he chooses to continue fighting, there's still fun fights for him. I would go with Bryce Mitchell. I think that's potentially a really fun fight. It would be another great name for Mitchell to try to add to his resume, and it would tell us a lot about Mitchell by seeing if he could walk through the fire that Zombie brings. So I think that's a perfect matchup. And on the Zombie side, obviously, it lets him turn back this hot new contender and keep himself at the top if he can do that.
Okay. So you're going a little further. Where's Bryce ranked for you?
For me,
I mean, the only ranking system that really matters. Let's be real.
he's 7 for me. Why? Does UFC have him lower than that?
He's 9.
9? Wow, that's fucking low.
Yeah.
And he's only 7 for me because I have Zabit, so really he's 6 for me.
Yeah, Zabit's not even on here.
Yeah, wow.
He's 10 on ranking MMA.
I don't mind if you have Allen in front of him. That's totally justifiable, but I don't know how you have Chikadze and Emmett in front of him. That doesn't make sense to me. But, yeah, that's where I'm going.
Omar, you got a name?
Ranking MMA
so-
is not updated, by the way, Mike. I don't think, is it?
Oh, it's not?
It wasn't when I looked today.
My pick was going to be Giga Chikadze.
Okay.
I just think they're both coming off of these bad losses that they're probably both going to need some time to heal from.
Yeah.
Chikadze, I think, has been healing for a little bit now. I think that fight was back in January. So he's already kind of, been on the mend. But to be honest, as much damage as he took, he could probably use a few more months. So hopefully sometime in the fall, perhaps, we could see them go at it. Stylistically, that fight just excites me more than the Bryce Mitchell fight. I can't see a fight with Bryce Mitchell and Zombie going any other way other than Bryce Mitchell takes him down and just rides him, beats him up, and all that other stuff.
Yeah, sure.
But there does seem to be more competitiveness in my head against Chikadze. More of a striking match, more of a way for Zombie to have a moment to potentially win a fight. I just think setting him up with Bryce Mitchell is probably not a great way to come back, I guess.
I really like that matchup because they're still pretty close in the rankings, so it would keep It would keep Zombie sort of like up there in the featherweight ranks. They haven't fought each other, obviously. Another name I kind of like is I just had him here. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong weight class. Maybe Edson. Edson coming off of back-to-back losses to Giga and Bryce.
You're giving me shit for booking him against Bryce, and you're going all the way down to Edson?
Yeah, you're right. Well, I don't want to book him against guys who are on tears like Bryce.
See, the reason I went with Bryce mainly is because we've been talking about it before on this show. We have Arnold Allen and Bryce, and they both are like so due to get a shot at a top guy.
Right.
And there hasn't been someone with like an open dance card other than maybe Cater. And now I feel like Zombie fits that bill. So that's the only reason I jumped on that opportunity.
Okay, let's talk about Volk. He's the champ. Well, it's not really talking about Volk, but it's really talking about the upper tier of the division and who you think is going to get the next shot. Mark,
I'll
go first. Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
I still think it has to be Max. I know Cejudo is throwing his name in the mix. I know Volk is teasing a move up to 155, and both of those things are fun and interesting and big deals. But he should not be doing any of them until he ends this Max Holloway saga once and for all, and he hasn't done that yet. That is the check mark that he needs on his resume before moving on to like the outside-the-box fights. Yes, it's 2-0 Volk in that series. I did score both for him, but a lot of the public thinks it's 1-1. They have absolutely been really close, no matter how you look at it. And Max also looks unstoppable at the moment. And when you have two guys in the same division who both look unstoppable, who have history, you have to pair them up and let them settle it before you start to look elsewhere. I think it would be a disservice if we don't finish that. And if Volk does get by Max and obviously makes it 3-0, then that's the end of that one. And I think at that point he's free to do anything he wants, but I think he's got to fight Max.
Omar, agree or disagree?
For the sake of some banter, I will disagree.
Oh.
So here's the thing. When Volk said that he wanted to go up to 155, and I'm not holding my breath for Cejudo, to be honest.
No.
If he comes back, we'll talk about it then. But we're looking at possibly at least 6 months before we can even start to consider him coming back into the UFC. And then realistically, he's never fought at featherweight before. You know what I mean? He's been the 125, 135 pound champ. I'm not necessarily against him getting an immediate title shot at 145, but at the same time, we don't.
I was going to ask that question.
I don't hate it, right? It's not like the first time we've seen somebody get a title shot in a higher division when they've become the champ. I don't really hate it as much.
Shot for Max is crazy,
but at the same time, I don't know why, but when he said 155, all I thought was Chandler, and like,
oh, dude, if it's that, he was talking like it was going to be for the belt. So in my
no,
head,
I
was
know
like, we can't jump Islam. That wouldn't be right. If he ever said I'll fight Michael Chandler, sign me up. I think I said that was one of my dream fights on our year preview thing.
If I know he's looking at the title shot, and that's totally possible. He might not even be considering Chandler. But when he said 155, it just, like, Chandler just sort of materialized in my head. Just standing there.
I would love it.
I would love that fight so much. So much.
Out of the whole roster of 55ers, Chandler is probably the only one that coming to my head that is kind of similar to Volk in like stature.
Yes.
And it would just be a fucking banger.
And technically,
I love it.
Technically, Chandler is supposed to be a better wrestler than Volkanovski. But, let's be real. Volkanovski ain't no bitch when it comes to the wrestling. I mean, his wrestling is top tier. So, I'm just so interested to see what happens. That fight just has gold stars all over it.
Yeah.
Okay. Shall we move on? Any other things you guys want to say about Mr. Volkanovski and how amazing he has become?
I mean, it's next level, man. We don't
is.
really see a lot of fighters that have come into the UFC that have been undefeated basically in the UFC, but that progressively get better and almost exponentially so from their championship fights. Like, I mean, Volkanovski was good when you won the belt against Max the first time, but like Mark said, he's just gotten significantly better, and I feel like his progress has been the most apparent from his first title fight up until his most recent one. Like, he's fighting these animals in this division, and he's like borderline beating the shit out of most of them. So it's just super impressive to see how his career is coming along, and I can see why he wants to do something amazing, right? I see why he wants to go up to 155 and put on a show up there, or even fight Cejudo if it really came down to it, because that would be a nice scalp to walk around with. So his career is just so interesting, and it's been a fun ride after the Max era to be in the Volkanovski era.
Yeah, man, for sure.
All right, I don't know who Corey Nelson is, but he is the guy who finished Volk for Volk's only loss back in 2013. Huh. He's 19-8 as a pro, so that's a decent pro career, to be honest. Yeah. But how many times a day do you think that guy tells people that he beat Alexander Volkanovski?
More and more every day.
First of all,
every passing day.
The guy's a welterweight, so I'm curious what weight they even fought at. But yeah, what a claim to fame for that man.
Yeah, for sure. All right, boys. In the co-main event of UFC